Ich bin ein Berliner? More like Ich bin ein Garmisch-Partenkirchener. Welcome to Leavenworth. Leavenworth, located here, would really get its start in 1893, but long before that, it was home to the Wenatchee, Chinook, and Yakima tribes, who mostly fished the nearby Icicle Creek. And Icicle Creek would really be where the first proto-Leavenworth would be founded, as Icicle Flats in 1890 would be created as a small cluster of logging cabins along Icicle Creek. Then, in 1892, the Great Northern Railroad would announce its plans to lay track throughout Wenatchee Valley, where Leavenworth is located. Then, as said before, in 1893, the Okanagan Investment Company would buy land along these tracks and name their town Leavenworth after a major stockholder in their company, Charles Leavenworth. And with the small population already there moving in, hundreds of people would begin to flock to this new town as it had a pretty great location for lumber, and even prominent businessmen from around central Washington would begin moving. In addition to lumber, fruit growing and mining both looked like pretty good options for Leavenworth as well, but there were some slight problems. While the land was fertile, it was pretty hard to grow fruit in the short and cold growing seasons that Leavenworth existed in. And then for mining, well, it looked pretty great at the start, with multiple mining operations existing just around the area, but as the 20th century would hit, the industry would go into a sharp decline. So that left lumber, which more than made up for the failings of other industries, as lumber could easily be floated down from the Wenatchee River to the local sawmill, which would be the largest employer in town for a good long while. In 1906, Leavenworth would officially be incorporated, citing a population of over 1,000. The same year its first bank would open. And by the 1920s, Leavenworth would hit its largest population ever, even today, at around 5,000. With the lumber industry booming, Leavenworth became home to saloons, gambling, and brothels, giving it the nickname by one newspaper at least, the wildest town in the West. The good times couldn't last forever though, and a series of blows would put the town by 1930 on the brink of death. Lumber was on the decline in Leavenworth, and their sawmill ended up closing. And in addition, the railroad that had really been the reason to found the city in the first place moved. And if that wasn't bad enough, in the 1930s, Leavenworth would enter a depression, putting the town into a further dramatic decline. By 1950, Leavenworth was looking to become a ghost town. Much of the population had left, and those who remained were mostly impoverished. And to make matters worse, transportation improvements made the trip to Wenatchee pretty fast, which meant that citizens could just do their business there instead of the failing Leavenworth. This image of Leavenworth is pretty much the opposite of what it is today. So what would change? Well, to understand that, first we gotta talk about the two Seattle businessmen, Theodore Price and Robert Rogers. The two friends would quit their profitable jobs and buy a failing cafe located a couple miles west of Leavenworth. They would turn it into a profitable business, adding a hotel and naming it the Squirrel Tree, giving it a Bavarian theme. Keep that Bavarian theme in mind, that's important. Now, around the same time this was happening, locals were definitely trying to revitalize Leavenworth, and plans were being thrown about left and right. Thing is, most of them relied on attracting a large industry to the town, but Price and Rogers had a different idea. Tourism. Hiking and skiing were one of the main reasons why Price and Rogers even wanted to move to the area in the first place, and outdoor recreation there was decently popular. And things started to move in that direction, as in 1962, Project Leavenworth Improvement for Everyone, or Project Life, would go underway, and with Price and Rogers urging, a subcommittee of tourism would be formed. In 1964, the duo's first success would occur as they would create the now annual Autumn Leaf Festival, which would happen yearly and attracts tourists even today. And with that under their belt, they managed to convince the town to adopt the same theme as their cafe. It went something like this. What if we did a town theme? I like that idea. We could do like a gay 90s theme? No, that's dumb. We're doing Bavarian. What? None of us are even German. That doesn't matter. You see that mountain over there? Basically the Alps. Fair enough. That checks out. Implementation of this idea, though, was far from easy, as Price and Rogers faced some serious ostracization, as they were both outsiders from Seattle, as well as living a bachelor friends lifestyle. They were a couple. And even once the town got on board with making itself Bavarian, much of the credit was given to longtime locals rather than Price and Rogers. Despite that, the pair would sell the squirrel tree and purchase as much property in Leavenworth as possible, beginning to remodel it into a Bavarian style alongside the other business owners. The transformation, dubbed Project Alpine, would receive some help from outside sources. Earl Peterson, the designer of Solvang, a similar Danish-themed town in California, would offer his assistance free of charge, as well as Heinz Ulbricht, a German from Seattle, would help to keep the remodeling authentic. In 1970, the Leavenworth Design Review Board would be created, which would help make building codes to require a Bavarian style. It cannot be stressed how much locals put into the Bavarianization of their town, though, as over the next few years, many would take out risky loans and volunteer their time and labor to really make the town become what it is today. And it would pay off. Tourists would soon begin to flood the town, bringing with them their money. The Bavarianization wasn't without its controversy, though, as some long-timers saw it as a destruction of the traditional Leavenworth way of life. More literal destruction would occur, though, in 1994, as the Great Fire of 1994 would sweep through the area, burning down over 19 homes, but narrowly avoiding the Bavarianized town center, which would have changed the course of the town's history forever if it had hit. In 1996, Project Bayern, this town really likes their projects, would be formed, and would succeed in their goal of making Leavenworth even more authentic. As the 21st century dawned, many of the problems that would plague the residents of the theme town would begin to fade as a shopping plaza as well as up-to-date medical center will be created just outside the town. Today, Leavenworth ranks second in Washington for tourism, only behind Seattle, and services millions of tourists a year. And Amtrak now even services Leavenworth, showing just how far they came from when the railroads deserted them in the 1930s. So that's Leavenworth, from a lumber town to a ghost town to pretending to be southern Germany. They've certainly been through a lot. Thanks for watching. Did I miss something? Or maybe I horribly mistook a fact? Well, you can put it in the comments. And maybe you want to see your hometown featured in a video like this. Also, put that in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing.